In 1324, a man walked into Cairo carrying so much gold that he accidentally damaged the economy of an entire region for years. Not a country, not a city, an entire region. Today, the richest people on Earth build rockets, buy social media companies, and control global corporations. Yet even their fortunes may be tiny compared to the wealth of one African ruler who lived 700 years ago. A king whose fortune was so vast that historians still struggle to calculate it, and whose story raises an uncomfortable question. What if the richest person who ever lived was not a billionaire, but an African emperor most people have never heard of? His name was Mansa Musa, and what happened during one extraordinary journey would make him famous across the known world.
History remembers wealth through symbols, palaces, treasuries, jewels, skyscrapers, private jets. But wealth itself is surprisingly difficult to compare across centuries. How do you compare a modern billionaire to a medieval emperor? How do you measure power when entire economies operated differently? Yet despite these challenges, one name appears again and again whenever historians discuss extreme wealth: Mansa Musa, the ruler of the mighty Mali Empire, an empire that dominated vast regions of West Africa during the 14th century, an empire sitting atop one of the most valuable resources on Earth: gold. Close-up of molten gold. Not stocks, not cryptocurrency, not real estate. Gold. The metal civilizations had desired for thousands of years. The metal that built kingdoms, started wars, and fueled global trade. Few people realize just how important gold was in the medieval world. Today, money exists digitally, a number on a screen. But 700 years ago, gold was wealth. Gold was power. Gold was influence. Gold was security. And nobody controlled more of it than Mansa Musa. Or so the stories claimed.
But could the stories be true? Could one man really have possessed wealth beyond any modern billionaire? Or had centuries of storytelling transformed a powerful king into a legend? To answer that question, we need to travel back to a world many people have never seen. A world that would completely reshape how history remembers Africa. And what we discover there is far more astonishing than most people imagine.
Imagine standing at the edge of the Sahara Desert. Not today, but 700 years ago. The horizon stretches endlessly. Golden dunes ripple beneath the blazing sun. The heat is relentless. The silence immense. Yet this vast desert was not empty. It was alive. Across these sands moved enormous caravans, hundreds, sometimes thousands of camels, carrying salt, textiles, ivory, books, spices, and above all, gold. The Sahara was not a barrier. It was a highway, one of the most important trade networks on Earth. To the north lay the wealthy cities of the Islamic world and the Mediterranean. To the south lay kingdoms rich in resources. And among those kingdoms, one rose above the rest: the Mali Empire. At its height, Mali controlled a territory larger than many modern nations, stretching across vast portions of West Africa. Its influence touched regions that today include parts of Mali, Senegal,
Mauritania, Guinea, and beyond. Its cities bustled with merchants. Its markets overflowed with goods. Its rulers commanded immense
authority. But beneath all of this prosperity was something even more valuable: the ground itself. Because hidden beneath the earth were some of the richest gold deposits known to the medieval world. And the man who controlled them would soon become a legend. Yet the most remarkable part of the story was still ahead.
Imagine inheriting an empire larger than many modern nations. Thousands of miles of territory, countless villages, strategic trade routes, powerful nobles, and unimaginable wealth. Most rulers would spend their lives trying not to lose it. Mansa Musa wanted something bigger. Every trade route mattered. Every alliance mattered. Every caravan crossing the Sahara mattered. Because wealth could disappear as quickly as it arrived. A drought, a rebellion, a lost trade route. Any one of these could weaken an empire. Musa understood this. And unlike many rulers before him, he saw wealth not as a treasure to guard, but as a tool to build something greater. Yet he had no idea that one decision, one journey, would eventually make him famous across continents.
Today, gold is valuable. In the 14th century, it was essential. Coins were minted from it. Empires depended upon it. International trade relied upon it. And according to many historical accounts, a significant portion of the gold reaching Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East originated from West Africa. The Mali Empire stood at the center of this system. Its gold fields supplied markets thousands of miles away. Merchants crossed deserts for it. Kings desired it. Economies depended upon it. Now imagine controlling access to that resource. Imagine possessing influence over one of the world's most important sources of wealth. That was the position Mansa Musa occupied. Historians have attempted to estimate his fortune. Many conclude that translating medieval wealth into modern dollars is nearly impossible. The numbers become too uncertain, too enormous, too disconnected from modern economics. And perhaps that tells us something important. His wealth may have exceeded the limits of meaningful comparison. Think about that. Modern billionaires can be measured. Their shares can be counted. Their companies valued. But Mansa Musa's wealth existed within an empire whose resources, land, production, and trade networks were intertwined. The true scale may never be known. And yet, one event would convince much of the known world that his riches were real. An event historians still discuss centuries later. The pilgrimage, the journey to Mecca. And what happened there would become one of history's greatest displays of wealth.
Stories followed behind them. Who was this ruler? How rich was he? Could anyone truly possess such wealth? Then the caravan reached the great cities of North Africa, and the world got its answer, or at least part of it. The year was 1324. As dawn broke over the Mali Empire, something extraordinary began. Thousands gathered, officials, merchants, scholars, servants, soldiers, and at their center, the most powerful man in Africa, Mansa Musa. This was no ordinary pilgrimage. This was a moving empire.
Witnesses described a caravan so vast that it seemed endless. Camel after camel stretched across the horizon, each carrying supplies. Some carrying gold. Huge quantities of gold. Enough gold to change lives. Enough gold to create legends. Enough gold to create problems nobody could yet imagine. For weeks they crossed the Sahara, one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. Blazing heat, violent sandstorms, endless horizons. Yet the caravan kept moving, and with every mile, the rumors grew. A king from West Africa, a king richer than anyone alive. At first, many dismissed the stories. Then they saw the caravan with their own eyes. And suddenly, the rumors no longer seemed exaggerated.
In Cairo, Mansa Musa began giving away gold. Not small amounts, not symbolic gifts. Vast quantities. Gold to merchants, gold to officials, gold to the poor, gold to religious institutions. Everywhere he went, gold followed. At first, people celebrated. Who wouldn't? Suddenly, wealth seemed everywhere. But then something unexpected happened. The value of gold began to fall. Prices shifted. Markets reacted. Economists today call it inflation. 700 years ago, people simply watched the consequences unfold. According to historical accounts, the effects lasted for years. Think about that. A modern billionaire can move markets. Mansa Musa may have altered the economy of entire cities simply by being generous.
Say the name Timbuktu. For many people, it sounds mythical, a distant place, a metaphor for remoteness. But centuries ago, Timbuktu was one of the most celebrated intellectual centers in the world. Under Mansa Musa's rule, investment flowed into architecture, scholarship, and education. Mosques rose above the city skyline. Libraries expanded. Scholars gathered. Students traveled great distances seeking knowledge. Imagine entering a room lined with manuscripts, works on astronomy, mathematics, law, theology, history. Knowledge preserved by generations of scholars.
This was not a forgotten corner of the world. It was a center of learning, a crossroads of ideas, a place where intellectual achievement flourished. And that reality challenges assumptions many people still hold today. Too often, medieval Africa is absent from popular historical imagination. Yet cities like Timbuktu remind us that African civilizations were deeply connected to global networks of commerce, culture, and scholarship. Mansa Musa understood that wealth alone was temporary. Knowledge could endure. Buildings could inspire. Institutions could shape generations. And for a time, they did. But history is rarely permanent. The fortunes of empires rise, and eventually, they fall. No empire lasts forever. Not Rome, not the Mongols, not Mali. Over time, trade routes shifted, political dynamics changed, new powers emerged, old systems weakened. The forces that once generated immense wealth
gradually transformed. Generations passed, memory faded, the world moved on. And something curious happened. A civilization once famous across continents became less visible in many historical narratives. Not completely forgotten, but often overlooked, reduced to footnotes, simplified, misunderstood. One, but often overlooked, reduced to footnotes, simplified, misunderstood. Why? The answer is complicated. History is shaped not only by events, but by who records them, who preserves them, who teaches them,
and whose stories are repeated. Meanwhile, countless manuscripts remained hidden in collections. Local traditions preserved memories. Researchers continued uncovering evidence, piece by piece, story by story. The fuller picture slowly re-emerged, and with it returned one remarkable name: Mansa Musa, a ruler whose fame once stretched across
the known world. One of the most famous pieces of evidence comes from a medieval map, created in Europe years after Musa's pilgrimage. It depicts a powerful African ruler holding a golden object, a visual symbol of extraordinary wealth. That ruler is widely believed to represent Mansa Musa. Camera zooms into map. Think about what that means. In an age before the internet, before newspapers, before global media, his reputation traveled thousands of miles, enough to influence how cartographers imagined the world, enough to leave a mark on historical memory, enough for people centuries later to ask, was he truly the richest person who ever lived? Music rises. Perhaps we'll never know with certainty. Historical estimates vary. Economic comparisons remain imperfect. Yet the question itself reveals something remarkable. Among all the emperors, all the kings, all the billionaires, one African ruler remains at the center of the conversation, 700 years later. That alone speaks volumes. But there is one final lesson hidden within his story, and it may be the most important lesson of all.
What does wealth mean? Is it money? Resources? Power? Influence? The ability to shape history? Mansa Musa forces us to confront these questions because his legacy extends beyond gold, beyond caravans, beyond headlines. He reminds us that wealth can build institutions, support learning, connect cultures, create opportunities. But he also reminds us that fame is fragile. Civilizations can flourish and later be forgotten. Stories can transform the world and later disappear from common memory. How many other histories remain hidden? How many achievements have been overlooked? How many remarkable people have vanished from popular awareness simply because their stories were not repeated often enough? Perhaps that is the deeper meaning of Mansa Musa's life. Not merely that he was wealthy, but that he challenges assumptions about Africa, about history, about civilization, about what we think we know. The sands of the Sahara still stretch across the horizon, silent, timeless. Yet beneath those skies, caravans once carried gold that helped shape the medieval world. And among those caravans walked a ruler whose wealth became a legend. A king. a pilgrim, a patron of knowledge, a symbol of possibility, and perhaps the richest human being who ever lived. But the true treasure he left behind was not gold.
It was a story, a reminder that history is far larger than the chapters most people learn, and that some of humanity's greatest achievements remain waiting to be rediscovered. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't how rich Mansa Musa was, but why so few people know his name.